Welcome to the overview of PageGate's filter pack. In this tutorial, we'll be going over the basics of what PageGate's filtering scripts can do and how they're implemented. To start, the filter pack is a series of scripts that allow you to conditionally modify the content of a message, including the message text, who the message is from, and who the message will be sent to. The filter pack can be used with any and all messages that are accepted into PageGate through any of its interfaces. For example, you could be pulling information from a web API using an HTTP post carrier. You could be checking the memory of a cellular modem for replies to your text messages. You could be using any of PageGate's stock interfaces, like the Getascii interface to receive alerts from network monitoring and CAD systems, and the GetMail interface to receive email to translate into SMS or pages. Regardless of how you do it, once you get the data into PageGate, that's when the filter pack comes into play. The scripts in the filter pack allow you to conditionally modify nearly anything, but let's break that concept down a little. When I say conditionally modify, what I really mean is that you can tell the script to look for certain key phrases or characters, then do something special when it finds them. As for what something special does, that's up to you when you configure the script. You could have it search and replace any instance of a specific word or phrase. You could change whom the message is meant to be delivered based on the body of the message. You could change the sender's name, execute a batch file or script, and literally thousands of other possible options. For example, let's say that you're sending SMS using cellular hardware. Let's also say that you have a basic reply system configured in PageGate, and that when your people reply to your text messages, all of those replies go to a supervisor's email distribution group. We could configure a script to scan all reply messages for the word lunch, and change the message to go to the lunch preparation group instead of the normal email distribution group. We could configure a script to scan all reply messages sent from a specific phone number and redirect their specific messages to a different distribution group or recipient. As a more complex example, let's say we have an emergency management agency using a CAD system, and that agency needs all fire, rescue, and accident calls dispatched, but does not want non-emergency calls dispatched. We could configure the script to look through the CAD data for certain flags like fire dispatched, or rescue dispatched, or accident dispatched, and allow those messages to go through while preventing any vandalism dispatched, or traffic dispatched calls or similar call types from going through. The greatest strength of the filter pack is the script's flexibility. You can key off of nearly any condition to execute nearly any effect, including execute a batch file to run an external process. In this tutorial, we'll be going over the basics of how a script is implemented, but we'll be going into more detail about how to code a script in the How to Build a Filter Script tutorial. The filter pack scripts are used by PageGate's Getascii interface. If incoming messages are not already being processed by the Getascii interface, but instead are accepted into PageGate via one of its other interfaces, then a carrier that uses the file protocol can be set up to route those messages back through the Getascii interface. This enables all messages that are handled by PageGate to be processed by the filter pack. The filter has 3 files associated with it: pgfilter.exe, pgfilter.xml, and preproc.bat. These 3 files must reside within a directory that Getascii is monitoring. When the Getascii interface goes through its normal polling routines and finds data that needs to be processed, it first checks for the existence of preproc.bat. If the batch file is found, it is executed, thereby preprocessing the data with the filter. So, preproc.bat is the file that triggers the script, pgfilter.exe is the script, and pgfilter.xml is the configuration file that tells the script how to function, and it does so through a series of logical statements by using Boolean operators. It's also important to note that the filter script supports using regex, also known as regular expressions, which allows for some truly detailed and complex filtering. Effectively, this filter allows you to modify input fed into PageGate based on nearly any selection criteria of your choosing, so long as the raw data can be read as plain text, whether that's in other programs' log files, XML or HTML content, delimited text, or anything that can be read as plain text. To implement a filter script, you'll need to copy pgfilter.exe and pgfilter.xml to a directory of your choosing. For example, /pagegate data /ASCII /filter. Since you want to engage the filter script before Getascii can process the data, you'll also want to copy preproc.bat into the same folder. Next, we'll need to configure Getascii to reference the filter script's directory. To do that, open the PageGate admin. Then go to Interfaces, Getascii, Settings. If you already have a polling directory, you can skip this step. If you do not have a polling directory, we recommend creating /PageGate data /ASCII and using that. Now go to Interfaces, Getascii, Settings, Advanced Polling, Files. Click Add. If the filtered information should only go to a specific recipient or group, select it from the dropdown. Otherwise, leave it at asterisk to indicate that messages processed by this rule could go to any recipient or group in the program. Leave from blank. Set files to match the extension of files written by the filter. Since the filter can be customized to output any extension on your files, this is largely arbitrary. For example, if your files will have an extension of .txt, you would use *.txt. If your files will have a .t2a extension, you would use *.t2a. Set the path to the filter scripts folder. By default, /PageGate data /ASCII /filter. Click Apply, then click Apply again. At this point, you'll need to edit the contents of pgfilter.xml to configure the script. For more information on that, please see our How to Build a Filter Script video tutorial. When using preproc.bat and the Getascii interface, this chain of events triggers the script. The Getascii interface finds a new file to process, and then checks for the existence of preproc.bat. If preproc.bat exists in the folder, Getascii will run it and pass the name of the file it has just found on the command line. Preproc.bat should be set to run pgfilter.exe, again passing it the name of the text file from Getascii. pgfilter.exe will look at the command line parameters passed to it to get the name of the input text, and then we'll also read the XML settings file from pgfilter.xml. It is highly recommended to use the XML file rather than trying to use the command line to pass XML parameters. pgfilter will perform all functions coded in pgfilter.xml, then terminate. The data output by pgfilter will be processed for delivery by the Getascii interface. After implementing a filter script, it is highly recommended that you go through a debugging process to verify what you've configured. Please see the Debugging the Script section of our documentation for more information on how to do that. Before we conclude, it's also worth mentioning that everything we've described uses the filter to pre-process your data by using preproc.bat. There is a second method that can be used to pass messages through the PageGate filter pack scripts. You can set up a carrier that uses the file protocol to save messages as files to a folder. When a connector delivers a message using the file protocol, they check for the existence of postproc.bat. It is used in much the same way that preproc.bat is with the Getascii interface. This method can be used if PageGate needs to pass message data to other programs, or if PageGate needs to run an external executable and pass it message data. This concludes the overview of PageGate's filter script. For more information, including how to configure your script, please visit our website, www.notepage.net.